So this is a tarot reading for Aries for the week of October 7th. We pulled the Three of Knives in the Soul Holler, which would traditionally be the Three of Swords, the Student of Knives, which would traditionally be the Page of Swords, and then the Fool reversed, or in the Soul Holler, it's the Fledgling reversed. So the Three of Knives, I'm an Aries rising, so I'm like trying really hard not to read this spread without thinking of myself, but the Three of Knives brings up something painful that someone else has done, being the sword in the middle here. Like, I always consider this the trauma card, but not everyone has trauma, so instead I've kind of just reframed it as like something painful that someone else has done. It definitely can also bring up something traumatic, but not always. But I feel like also in context of everything that's happening right now politically and like with the news, that collectively we are all kind of working through a lot of trauma, or like in context of Venus retrograde. But anyways, and then the other two swords, I was taught them as representing shame and blame. So what on the kind of like, you could think of the Three of Swords as like this, what's happening on the surface level. On the surface level, the invitation this week is to figure out how to remove the swords rather than continuing to insert the other two swords of shame and blame. So like the reasons why we feel shame over the first sword being inserted are the like repetitive reasons why we continue to blame ourselves for why something happened, because numerologically 3 still was synthesis. So we're looking at like how we synthesize a like thought pattern, and we're catching that like repetitive thought pattern that's happening associated with whatever painful experience the first sword represents, and instead of continuing to like beat ourselves up over it, instead we have an opportunity to pull the swords out. The Three of Swords like isn't necessarily healing, that's more so the Four of Swords. The focus like in the Three of Swords is more specifically on pulling out the swords, and like figuring out what that hook is. And then with the Student of Knives kind of coming up underneath that as like what's happening further on, like at below the surface level. Students kind of like move through the Ace to the 10 of a suit trying to master it. So like in the Ace to the 10 of the Suit of Knives, we're trying to master brain chemistry and like master our brain and tell it what to do. And when we get to the Student, we finally stop trying to master it and just like listen and let it teach us. So in terms of how that relates to like mental health and brain chemistry and like our thought patterns and just like the way our brain works, my psychiatrist refers to it as my 911 system. So it's just like our fight, flight, freeze, fawn response that kicks in whenever we're in danger. And for a really long time, I used to get upset at my, like, once I understood like, oh, okay, this is how my brain works and I'm being triggered and this is just my 911 system turning on, I would get really upset at it and like spent a very long time trying to master my 911 system, instead of what I ended up finding was more helpful was listening to it and almost like thanking it, if that makes any sense. So it's like, thank you, like especially with the Three of Knives can definitely come up when we're feeling triggered, and it's like, thank you for turning on, because like we do need our 911 system. It's just like it's a part of our brain that's like wired to keep us alive in life or death situations. But if we're not in a life or death situation and it's turning on, then that's like really frustrating or annoying, or it's like, oh no, I'm crying at the grocery store because I'm triggered and like I don't want to be crying at the grocery store, so how do I turn my 911 system off? And I've found that thanking my 911 system and being like, thank you for turning on, and I understand why you think I'm in danger, but like I want to reassure you that I'm not, and it's okay, and you don't have to turn on. Like, I'm not in danger right now, this isn't a life or death situation, and thank you, but I'm okay. And so that's kind of like an analogy of a way we can work with a student of knives. If we just want to break it down kind of like on a very basic level, students deal with like ruled by the element of earth, they deal with how we ground something. And the suit of knives or swords is air, so it rules like our brain. And often I find it really relatable through the lens of mental health, and just like brain chemistry and thought processes. So um, we are grounding our brain chemistry. Um, and then the last thing that comes up uh, is the Fool reverse. So it kind of, you could think of this card as like the context to the other two cards, the Three of Swords and Page of Swords that came up. The fledgling or the Fool reversed, I'm just going to show it upright for the sake of it being easier to look at. Traditionally in the Slow Hauler, it's someone leaping off the edge of the cliff. Traditionally in the Smith Rider Waite, it's someone leaping off the edge of the cliff. In the Slow Hauler, it's someone, they've got a flashlight, and they can't really see their path. They can only see their path by the light of their flashlight. So, in some ways, it's reminiscent to me of the Hermit and the Smith Rider Waite, and how the Hermit can only see his path by the light of the lantern. He can't really see beyond, like, he can only see his next step. So the Fool reversed is just, it's like, I mean, everyone has a different opinion on reversals, but the way that I work with the reversal of the Fool reversed is just that it's an opportunity to honor our nervous system when taking a leap of faith or taking a risk. Like, the Fool leaps or takes a risk when they feel supported. It's like the difference between butterflies in our stomach because we're scared, or butterflies in our stomach because we're excited. And we don't have to leap in the Fool reverse, well, in the Fool upright or reverse. We don't have to leap until we feel supported, until we feel like if we leap, we won't fall. Like, we trust that we'll fly. And so it's like, you don't have to take the risk if it's something that's going to trigger you. If we're going back to like the Three of Knives and the Student of Knives, and we feel supported and grounded and like feel the earth beneath our feet. And then when we're ready, we can leap and we can fly. So that's this week. Bye.